For those of you who are here for the first time, so Carl, where are you from? Which company? Just so I can understand your context.
I'm currently at MoneyGram.
MoneyGram. And Justin, are you able to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Where are you from, Justin?
I'm with Pacific.
Okay. And are you guys here in the DFW area?
Yep, I'm located in Richardson.
Ah, very good. Okay. Well, I live in Highland Village. Don Hartman, as you know, lives in Carrollton area, and Mark Schneider is in the Plano area. So Mark and I have actually been working together since about 2003 as co-facilitators, and he'll be joining us to speak a little bit about his experience because he was a student of RLF back in 2002. Like him, I was a... Hey, Mark, how are you? So,
Okay, there's some horrific background noise on this thing.
okay, if for those of you who are online, if you could mute your phones, I'd appreciate it. Um, and all right, so we have both Mark and I have experience going to RLF as students. I was a student in 1997 when I was a director of IT. It was one of the things that I needed to become a vice president at CB Richard Ellis. The next year became that and was basically a divisional CIO, did some global corporate mergers and those kinds of things. And back in that time was my last full-time IT role. I went into management consulting and have done leadership development pretty much ever since 1998, along with other things, an extended stint at Microsoft, among others. I founded the Southwest RLF with my former CIO, John Parody, back in 2000, and since 2007 have written nuggets for the Society for Information Management. So I have a little bit of experience with this and wanted to share with you today what that program is about, what you might learn, and then how we can work forward together to help you to become the leader that you can be. So this year I've spent some time in Austin, and then spent a little bit of time in Houston, and then also spent some time in the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter doing these tastes of RLF in different formats. What specifically is that? It really is an offering to help you understand a little more about what RLF is. Before we go into the mechanics of how and what an RLF happens, I wanted to share with you what we believe about people to kind of set the stage for why we do what we do. So most of us are professionals that do other things, but we believe that everybody is uniquely made and skilled to provide value in their spheres of influence. That value is different based on your own individual background, personality, styles, and skills, but that influence can be grown, and that's what we seek to do. We believe that everybody has untapped potential. So even though you may have significant responsibilities today, we believe that you as a successful person can be more. If you are considering sponsoring people that have challenges in their personality or challenges in the way that they approach other colleagues, we believe that those challenged people can be more as well. We believe that it's a leader's and manager's responsibility to set vision and then to help each individual see what their unique contribution is. So as you become self-actualized, you then become self-transcendent, helping others to become self-actualized. That's the way that you help them to articulate their value proposition. We believe that alignment between personal and professional goals is both obtainable and unleashed potential is available. We believe that everybody can be more, and the better we align ourselves with our ultimate potential, the better that we can lead others to their potential, and thereby gathering power and influence that is untapped. We believe that people can grow capabilities. Those are things that you learn how to do, But really, RLF is more about learning to build your capacity to be more than you are today, to really expand your mind and to think things that you haven't thought before. That's why the curricula is so diverse and outstanding, and I'll get into that in a little while. And then as individual facilitators and salespeople and chapter leaders in the DFW, Houston, and Austin chapters, we're a committed catalyst to help people and companies live a learning journey of discovery that leads to learning, changing, and growing towards increased positive results. So the learning and changing came from 1992 when Pat Wallington, who was the first CIO that we know of, she was the CIO at Xerox at the time, the first person named a CIO, set that as the Society for Information Management's motto for the year, that people to lead must learn to learn and learn to change. At RLF, we've used that as a motto for many years, although you haven't seen it in literature for a while. And the growing is something that I added to it, because as you learn and change, you grow, and then you repeat. So you learn, change, grow, learn, change, grow. And that increases your positive results. So that's kind of why we do what we do. It by no means is what everything that RLF stands for, but it gives you a good sense of why we are so excited to provide this program for as many years as we have here in DFW and around the country. So I'll take a little bit of time now to let Mark introduce himself as well. We'll do introductions for those of you who are on the phone, and then we'll have the DFW graduate discussion, which will be Mark and myself. Karen Calvert was going to join from Austin, but had a conflict come up at the last minute. And then we'll talk through an organization that we've sponsored for many years. We'll talk about what the learning process of RLF is and how it works. And then I'll provide you with an exercise that I learned back in 2001 and have been extending ever since then. And then we'll talk about next steps. So by way of introductions, Mark, can you introduce yourself and go ahead and do the graduate discussion at this point as well?
Okay. My name is Mark Snyder, and I've been co-facilitating with Mike since 2003, roughly. And I was a 2002 RLF graduate. At the time that I went through RLF, I was consultant, technology consultant, and had done that for a great many years, was relatively senior in the organization that I was with, and have continued on in consulting until roughly 3 years ago, and I've gone back into industry, and I'm the Global Quality Director for Infor's HCM product line. So I have basically day-to-day responsibility for quality delivery for roughly a $3 billion portfolio of products, software as a service products. And so I deal with a lot of the same challenges that you folks do, and that other SIM members do in terms of staffing and quality of delivery, and how do we retain staff, and how do we lead people and share our vision with what we're trying to do for the company is. Summing up my experience with RLF is a simple sentence, and as you talk to other people that have been through the program, or you may have already heard this from potential sponsors or other folks that you already know that have been through the program, my sum up for it would be life-changing. I felt like I was a good manager and a reasonably good leader, but really wanted to do more, wanted to particularly grow in the leadership area, because I felt and still very strongly feel that leadership in the IT arena is critical, because we touch everything in a business. And so going through the class helped me, first of all, understand myself better and what I brought to the table. really focused on how do you fix things that aren't the way they, quote, should be. How do you change your behavior to accommodate or to overcome weaknesses? What do you correct in yourself? And this was a totally different approach. It was, who are you? What are your strengths? What makes you uniquely you? What do you bring to the leadership table? And then how do you leverage those strengths to be a better leader? So that was, to me, that was something completely new and very exciting. And then, how do you really understand the strengths in your team? Not just technical skills, but who those people are. And how do you harness their strengths? How do you enroll them in your vision for where you're going as a business? So that piece of it, again, very, very important. And then the third piece for me was the context piece. What's the context that we're doing business in, and how do I understand that better? How do I relate to the business better as an IT leader? How do I live understanding what they deal with? And how do then I communicate that to them, that I do understand that I am there for them, that it's not just IT looking for an excuse to deploy something. And so those were the three areas of growth that I experienced in that class. The fourth thing to come out of that class for me, and in every class since where I've had the privilege of facilitating, is the incredible bonds and network that you build through the folks that you go through the program with. When you come out of the program at the other end, you've got a ready-made network of peers that know you, that you know, and that you can trust. And in today's business environment, that's priceless, absolutely priceless. So, those are the things that really were life changers for me, and those are the things that keep me pumped up about continuing to be involved with RLF. Through time, my career has continued to grow, and almost every day I'm pulling something that I learned in terms of communication skills or leadership skills or a way to encourage excellence. Just as part and parcel of what I do every day. And you come out of that experience, the RLF experience with that stuff has become a part of you. You really take it, you internalize it. And the things that you try on during that course that leverage you and that's good for you become second nature. So, that's sort of my RLF graduate pitch in terms of what it did for me. Me as a person, I'm a businessman, I'm a husband and a father. I've got two children, one of them's 21, one of them's 42. I've got three grandchildren and a step-grandchild. I am a person of faith, and that guides my life. I am a person who values what I call in my blog meeting on common ground. So I think that we find answers by communicating and working together instead of polarizing at extreme ends of the scale over stuff. And I'm very passionate about helping other folks grow, and my one-word mission statement is grow. So that's me.
Awesome, Mark.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep. Thanks very much, Mark. Any guests? Do you have any questions for Mark before we continue? Awesome. I appreciate your heartfelt introduction, Mark. Much appreciated. So as Mark said, we do this because we love. For those of you who have received messages from me, you'll see that I sign off as love and peace. Like Mark, I have a faith-based orientation. I have an undergraduate in liberal arts with a major in theology. from Ambassador University, and then a MBA from Azusa Pacific, a Christian university in Southern California. So also have a desire to help people not only live a better physical life, but to live a better intellectual and spiritual life as well, as you'll see in the model that I'll share in just a minute. So likewise, like Mark, as we look at what it is that we do in RLF as a way to give back, the next topic is our Dallas-Fort Worth sponsorship of a nonprofit formerly called Aid Matrix. For the last 3 years, we've sent through the CIO at Aid Matrix, the VP of IT, and the Director of IT pro bono through the SIM RLF program. Primarily because some of the smaller nonprofits obviously don't have budget to do so, but also as a way to integrate into the program an immediate give back, and not only a thoughtful connection but a personal connection. As Mark said, we develop tremendously powerful relationships. The really cool thing about what Aid Matrix and now Advanced Net Labs does is that they, through corporate technologies, enable the social sector through those corporate technologies. So in addition to the sponsorship level that we've provided at RLF, the local chapter has also provided grants to Advanced Net Labs for a program at Skills to Succeed in Monroe, Louisiana last summer, 2014, the year before, in 2013 when we did a program at Louisville Independent School District. We've also spoken virtually, just like we're doing today, in Slovakia. Did that last summer. And then we have some great opportunities coming forward to extend that learning and that give back as a class as we go through the program itself. So like we started with why we do RLF, let's look at what Advanced Net Labs is and see why we care about what they're doing, because it's an extension of what we do every day, but it's focused on a little bit of a different arena. So Advanced Net Labs believes in the inherent value of all people, their health, safety, development, empowerment, and we partner with like-minded corporate and social innovators to develop platform applications connecting processes, enabling programs for those left behind or affected by crisis. Together with our ecosystem of service providers, contributors, and beneficiaries, we build scalable, sustainable, and repeatable platform to fuel social change. So that's a mouthful, and it's really a vision statement, but I'll give you two solid examples that help you understand what Advanced Net Labs does and what Aid Matrix has done before them. So basically, the idea of Aid Matrix started about 14 years ago when it was discovered that food banks really didn't have a way to communicate between themselves and to share foods that were going to go bad. So at that time, a company called I2 here in Dallas, that was a supply chain oriented company, donated their platform to their own nonprofit to provide a platform where these companies like Christian Community Action here in Louisville and 5 others could connect. That system grew over the last 14 years, and now 35,000 food banks, government agencies, and GNOs actually connect, so that if Kraft Foods has an overrun of food, they can actually donate that online through their ERP system. UPS or FedEx can donate shipping, and then the foods are sent to the appropriate food banks that can actually use those. That's the one example. So the metaphor there is that we move rice through the system more abundantly. In the model for Advanced Net Labs, the unit of measurement is not food, but it's education. So for those that are underserved in the communities, we're providing units of education that help them fill the gap between their underprivileged learning environment in high school and provide corporate skills that enable them to get jobs in the technical sector. That's why SIM's local STEM initiative is actually funding and supporting those organizations. So it gives you an example of how we're active in the marketplace, and we'll introduce everybody to those realities as we go. I'm going to leave the empowerment marketplace in the deck so that you can look at it later. But the bottom line is that an individual or a group would need, in this case, a child who is a near high school graduate, doesn't have the skills to succeed in the marketplace. They come into a service provider such as AdvancedNet Labs or United Way or any of the plethora of service providers that we partner with, and then are provided funds by contributors like Accenture, Microsoft, AT&T, etc. And they come out with certifications in Microsoft or utilizing Cornerstone educational systems, whatever they provide or can apply for internships. They can then get meaningful employment, and they can have a career or education. It's a powerful way for those who are learning in a leadership way to provide instant value to the marketplace. And if you do join RLF, you'll learn obviously a little bit more about that. So now let's get to how. Any questions, by the way, about AdvancedNet Labs and our partnership with them? All right. So the bottom line there, I think, is that not only are we learning to lead, but we're learning to lead in a virtual lab with individuals who are a part of that organization as a part of the team that are in the room with you. We've already had introductions. I'd like to get Carl and Justin and Arlene to introduce themselves so the others can hear where you are. I know you're all from the DFW area, it sounds like. So Carl, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is, and what you might be looking for in the leadership program?
Yes, hi. So I currently work as a director at MoneyGram. I actually work in one of the business units, and I am basically the director of IT for that business unit. And what that means is I'm responsible for helping to do the strategic planning for the IT portfolio for that business area. I don't directly work with, or excuse me, I'm not part of the IT organization, I'm part of the business organization, but a big part of my job is basically working with the IT organization to execute on the roadmap for the overall portfolio of projects that the business needs, and making sure that that's all appropriately executed and delivered.
So are you effectively a product manager for delivery of IT to that business unit?
Yeah, that would be one way to look at it, kind of a portfolio product manager, if you will.
Got it.
So that's essentially my primary area of responsibility.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Carl. And what would you be looking for in a program such as this?
To be honest with you, I just heard about this last week, so at this point I just would like to learn more about the program and I'll, and understand how it might be able to benefit me and my company.
Perfect. Thanks. Justin, can you share a little bit about your background, what you're doing, and what you might like to learn?
Sure. Let me apologize in advance. I've got a problem with my throat. I'm losing my voice after going to Disney World with my kids for a few days. A whole lot of yelling at them during that time, so I pretty much lost my voice.
Very good.
So my background, I've got a degree in computer science from Texas Tech, which I received a long time ago. In my current role, I'm Vice President of Software Development for Associate, which is the global software development across all business units. Running local co-located teams, American-based remote teams, nearshore and offshore teams for an application portfolio of around $40 million, which is an extremely difficult thing to do.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking for in the program, although I'm always interested in upskilling, improving my own skills, and trying to figure out how to solve some of the complex management and leadership issues that arise when you're trying to run when you're trying to service the needs of a very diverse business with teams scattered throughout the world and trying to deliver high-quality software in a highly efficient way. That's kind of where my thought is.
Very good. Well, thanks very much, and we'll address, I think, your situation specifically in the diversity of the group that we typically get, and then we can talk a little bit more of that afterwards if you'd like. Okay. Is there? I see that there's an Arlene on the call. Are you interested in introducing yourself?
Sure. I'll be brief. I'm a senior business analyst. I have a technical background. I used to be a developer, led various development teams through full development life cycles.
Okay.
I've had some leadership experience. I definitely have never had any formal training. I'm looking to figure out what the next step in my career is, and I heard about this program, and again, like the others, not exactly sure what I'm going to get out of it, but just leadership in general is something that I'm interested in.
Okay, thanks. And for those of you who are on the phone call, Arlene is actually joining via the link call, so you could not hear her comments, but welcome, Arlene, to the call. All right, so we've talked about who the audience is. Potential candidates are emerging CIOs, those who are growing in an organizational structure. You're either a former CIO responsible for divisional stuff, like Justin, you have global responsibilities, but in essence, you already have, as Dick Dooley, the founder of SIM, would call, some stuff about you, some skills and some successes. And those are those things that we'd like to use as a platform to assist you in growing your influence. We'll talk a little bit about experience. We'll talk about what we believe about our participants we already have. The next steps will be at the end. So bear with me for a second. Let me get to the next slide. People that have been through RLF have come from these companies in the Southwest over the last 15 or so years. Some of these have attended in Chicago, where I've facilitated, or in Southern California, or in the Pacific Northwest, but by and large, you should see a company that is in your industry. As we were speaking about with Justin, there's a substantial diversity, which is one of the powers of RLF, that you get insights from other industries. You also get insights from other cultures because of the differences between the way that companies and individuals experience the leadership in their particular context. We also have, some realities of people who have sponsored people, what they actually have received through the program. So June Drury, who is now a director of RLF and a facilitator for many years, when she was the president of SIM and during other times, actually provided over 200 individuals the opportunity to go to RLF. She was actually a global CIO at Aon, Chubb, and other places, and primarily in those global relationships were really responsible by influence on affecting change in the organization. So she utilized RLF to provide experience to her vast numbers of diverse people across the world and country to actually have a similar experience, so that they can, when they got together, they could have a conversation based on the same sort of ethos, and RLF provided that platform for her. So she says that people should attend are those that would like to focus on soft skills, helping them to hone their skills and re-energize them, to help participants who are at a crossroads potentially, where you're trying to figure out what the next step might be. What participants get, according to June, are a network and a reality check. The stuff that you're dealing with is the same stuff that everybody else is, and you gain a group of people that know you fairly deeply, probably better than many people in your life because of the kinds of things that we share, and also are in your arena, right? They understand what you do for a living, so it helps for you to deal with that. Time to focus on the important, the big rocks, as Stephen Covey used to say, instead of the stuff that's just urgent. Um, you know, what you receive if you are funded to go to RLF is a message that you are valued, because although it's not a super expensive program, it is significant, and even more so, the time away from the office is something that that impacts your work, as well as time at home, because you'll have 30 some books that you'll be reading as well. You'll also get a new awareness of your capabilities. So some of the things that you've forgotten about yourself will be reignited, and that's where you get that that new energy. So the sponsoring company, and these are things that you can use to talk to your potential sponsor, will get loyalty from you because it's really a powerful program. You'll get re-energized employees, a new knowledge network, and better leaders. So there's actually a couple of videos out on the SimNet website if you're interested in learning more from June and others who have come through the program as well. Likewise, I took the opportunity to document a couple of the participants who I've worked with over the years and what they talked about. So Andrew Lopatinsky, Mark will remember, was one of those guys that stood in the back of the class with his arms crossed. For the first 2 sessions, really was not engaged in the program. He had been asked to come by his boss, didn't know why he was there, and really didn't want to be there. However, as you can see, by the end of the program, he was so excited about it that he and his peer, who went to another RLF in another part of the country, both agreed that they not only experienced something extraordinary, but they were going to introduce it to the majority of their teammates. And for many years, Diageo basically sent everybody from the CIO down to the senior manager level, until they'd pretty much exhausted their senior levels of individuals. So it was a great run for about 4 or 5 years. Andrew is still active in his chapter out in Connecticut, and other folks are still growing from the experience that they received. Likewise, you have other folks that have different experiences through the same program. So Gary Bussell actually was a VP already at JP Morgan Chase. He was sponsored by Dick Daniels, who as an RLF participant in 2000 was an executive vice president. I think I learned more from him in the year that he was in my class than he learned from me. But his idea was that he wasn't going to send anybody to something that he hasn't gone to himself. Like I said, he was an EVP at JP Morgan Chase when he came in 2000. He's now the CIO at Kaiser in California and still sending people through RLF. But his participant in this particular year, Gary Bussell, actually found that it provided a way for him to connect with his kids that was unique and different than anything that he had seen before. For those of you who don't see the slides, you'll see the little bit of the details later. Debbie Jowers, who has gone on since her tenure as an RLF participant to be the SIM chapter president in DFW, and now for the last 3 years has been the symposium co-chair for Symposium, which is the annual gathering of leaders across the country. So she's taken her passion and really provided it back to the society in some significant chapter roles. And the reason that she still sends, they're sending 2 people again this year, people through the RLF from Texas Health Resources, is that they become leaders, not just managers. And the difference, as she says, they're managers of things, not just, or I'm sorry, they're leaders of people, not just managers of things. So a couple of different diverse experiences. What you'll find if you talk to any of the 400 plus graduates that we had going through the DFW chapter RLF is that they'll all have a unique experience that is equally powerful, but it will be individually unique to them based on their particular style and the way that they learn. And that's the power of the program. So what specifically does the program look like? We talked a little bit earlier about Pat Wallington. You know, we believe that you're learning and changing and leading to growth, and that continues to roll through your experience. One year, I think it was the year, Mark, that you became a co-facilitator back in 2002. 2002 or 2003. The class was specifically desirous to understand what the process looked like, because explaining it wasn't enough. So I came up with this diagram that kind of talks about how you as an individual come into the program with considerable experience, influence, and concern, kind of following the Covey model of 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. If you've read that, if you haven't, I'd recommend it. We stopped using it as a part of the program because so many people have read it, but I've noticed over the last couple of years that people in the last few years have not had the opportunity to read it. But it's really an influential piece of work. And Covey believed that you could do more good by focusing on the area that you influence directly rather than those areas that you're just concerned by, and that if you focus on that, you could grow that influence. So taking from that, we take you through a syntopical learning experience. So Mortimer Adler was a philosopher at the University of Chicago, was the editor of the Encyclopedia Britannica for about 20 years, and wrote an influential book called How to Read a Book. For those of you who will join, you'll get that book along with your other 30 books, and it'll be the first thing that you read. And his 5th level of reading is called syntopical reading. It's where you actually take from multiple sources, create a model for yourself based on that learning, and then that learning becomes your syntopical experience. So that's what we mean by syntopical learning experience. And in the RLF context, what we're doing is we're taking the fact that you've been sponsored, your family and friends who are assisting you because you're providing a lot of time, or you're taking a lot of time away from activities that they may be used to you providing in, because you're doing homework and you have lots of books to read. So it's very much at a collegiate level, if you will, from a graduate level as far as a level of effort. You'll have other participants in the class. We do some exercises. We have 2 to 3 CIOs come per session. And those speakers, even if they're people like myself or Don Hartman, who shares on his experience with networking, will share with you things that you don't hear in any other program. Not only will we share with you the great things that have happened and we've seen, but the things that are hard and that have hurt, and those lessons of experience that are hard won, so that you can learn from those experiences. So it really becomes something that is very special. I may say too, I don't have it in the slides, but this year we're actually honoring a dearly departed friend, Merv Tardy, and this year will be in his honor. Since 2000, Merv was a speaker. He just passed away about a month and a half ago. But in those speeches that he shared, in the last session that he shared in August, he actually told the group that he knew that he was going to be dying, what that meant to him, and what he was hoping his family would take from his experience here on Earth. So I tell you that the people that come and speak have been doing it for years, are heartfelt and desirous that you learn, things that they have learned the hard way, that can help you to overcome obstacles much earlier in life than they or we have had. So it's a very powerful, that particular component of RLF is the highest rated thing that we do, right alongside the books and the participants. So those are the top 3. Obviously we have the books. The books are not just about learning about the book, but about learning what you learn from the book, and then having discussions with other individuals who have unique perceptions that they receive from the books as well. And what you'll learn is that everybody reads the same material. They get completely different learnings from it based on their own background. And it helps us to see that when we're teaching or when we're leading change in our organization, that we can actually have different experiences by an individual level, and that we have to consider that as we're leading a diverse group of people. Justin, for you, that becomes even more powerful because you have the cultural settings as well. And as Mark and Don can attest, over the last couple of years, we've had more and more diverse participation, specifically from individuals who have come from India, for instance. So it's a way to get to know somebody, understand their culture, and the way that they think in a very unique and extended way that can really help you to understand some of the differences that you've experienced in your own experience, but at a level that's very personal and enriching. We do some exercises as well, and as Mark has said, Mark said his mission is to grow. My mission is to be and to share. And what that means to me is to be the blessing that I was meant to be, and then to share the learning journey that you need in order to be the person of a stature that you can be. So everybody talks about their mission statement. You'll continually get to grow that mission statement as we go through the program. And then what we hope to do is to set a learning environment for you so that you can continue to have that journey go on even after RLF is continued.
Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't really explain the grow very much. It might be worthwhile to do that.
Sure.
If you look at grow, it's all kinds of different verbs, active and passive and all of that, and it can be looked at as something that you do. It can be looked at as something that gets that occurs in you. And to me, it's to grow myself so I can use what I learn to grow others.
Right.
So we can work together to grow a better world.
Yep.
And so that's what the grow mission is about.
Yeah. And to help you to define, thank you very much, Mark, and to help you define your own personal mission, we'll start out at the very beginning detailing who you are as an individual, kind of the as is you. Will help you to identify what your strengths are. Will help you to document what your skills are. Will help you to understand various other components of your personality, of your modes of engagement, of the way that you share information, the way that you receive information. And then in the last couple of sessions, you'll be able to write your mission statement. The mission statement originally may be a couple of pages long, and then over a time of whittling it down, you'll get more and more succinct in the way that you define it, but it will become more and more rich as you define it as well. And the simpler the mission is, the easier it is to remember, so that you can guide your actions not only by your values and the virtues that you agree are acceptable in your sphere of influence, but those that are most powerful to you. So thanks, Mark, for that explanation of grow. We have facilitation here because at the very beginning, Mark and I are going to lead you in the first session in a very distinct way. But as the sessions go, we will leave you to facilitate yourselves in a more and more rich way. In that way, it's a learning lab unlike any other experience that you've had, because over time, you as the class take over the class, and then it becomes your own construct. Now, obviously, there are some ground rules that we'll set, but I just tell you that in advance because you'll have the opportunity to run the agenda for a day perhaps, or you'll be able to share your mission statement and your particular learning on books. So facilitation becomes a shared responsibility and a way for you to perhaps step out of your normal way and take on some challenges in a very trusting environment for yourself so that you can stretch and grow in the very way that we run the class. So then RLF graduates are well balanced, articulate of their strengths and weaknesses, as we talked about, know where you're going, have plans to get there, have work stretch objectives established, and have growing influence and ability to influence growing concerns. You'll notice there are little yellow arrows, you may not be able to see them, that flow around concern and influence. What I believe is that as an individual, and especially as a leader, you have to grow your influence by being concerned about things in the world, about being concerned about the way that your employees are being treated, and being concerned about the way that you're leading them. That if you do that, then you will grow your influence, and we'll have an experience here in a second to share that with you. So we do that considering the mind, body, spirit aspect, that we are more than just a physical being. We have a consciousness that can't be explained by science. We actually had a very eloquent conversation with Ray Kurzweil, author of The Singularity is Near and other things. He's the chief visionary at Google right now, trying to create consciousness in computers. And really, from a definitional perspective, science can't touch it. He even explained that it's really more of a philosophical discussion. This was at Symposium just a month or so ago. So a very powerful conversation, and we'll look forward to having that in class. We can also have that on an individual basis if you're interested in learning more about it. And then I used to talk about integration a lot. I really talk about we used to talk about work-life balance a lot. I've changed it to integration in my own discussions because David White, who is a poet author to corporations, talks about in his book, The Three Marriages, which is one of our facilitator choice books, the marriage between your spouse, yourself, and your work, and how to integrate that. Life is about changing balance, right? So the reason I don't believe in work-life balance is because that fulcrum that you see at the top of the pyramid, all of the things that we are kind of rest on it. And at any given moment, one of the aspects of our life will take power over the others, and we'll have to integrate in a new way. So that's where the learning changing comes, because you're constantly shifting between your personal, your home, and your work life, so that you can achieve what you define as success. And that definition of success will be unique to you, and one that you'll have the opportunity to, unlike any other program, to define. So that's the learning process. Are there any questions there? I know, was it Carl that you said you had to leave? He may be on another call right now. I know how.
I don't have to leave. I think there was somebody else.
Okay, it was Justin. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a couple of minutes to walk through how you actually can grow that influence. So if you consider that yellow circle on the screen, I'm going to skip through this slide real quick. And you determine how you're going to grow it. You have to consider that your strengths are different than your power. You have strengths all by yourself, but power comes from using the strengths of others. So, what are your strengths? We'll define those later. What I'd like to talk about today is what power do you have, and then what power could you, if you actually use the power of all or the strengths of your entire team, could you achieve? And from that matter, if you had the opportunity to build your power base across all aspects of your life, what would that look like? So I'd like you to draw a circle in the center of a piece of paper. You can do this on any paper that you have. And then I'd like you to identify the persons, groups, or entities with whom you have a need to have a network connection to play a role. So these are all roles in your life: your home life, your work life, your community service life, your life of faith, if you have such, at your church, your synagogue, at your mosque, or other. And consider all of those. I'm going to go ahead and switch to another picture so you can see a little easier what that might look like. So here you see you could have a circle with your deity or beliefs at the top, your family, your company, leaders, peers, customers, partners, associations, neighbors, or personal time or development, your fitness, the things that you're struggling with. There's actually a detailed article that if you're interested in receiving, you can send me a message and I'll send you that article talking about how to go about doing this, not only for this exercise that we're going to experience today, but for your work situation as well. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about or to think about and write down into various circles your power base as you see it today. For those who are listening to this later, you can fast forward for about 2 minutes. Right now it's 10:01 on my clock, 10:02. So we're going to go at 10:03. We'll start again. All right. Now, you may not have had the opportunity to develop everything, but at this time, if you would look at the screen again, for those of you who have the screen, Carl, sorry about that, you'll see that you can write a dark, solid line between yourself and that individual or entity if there is a very high or strong relationship. If you have a strong relationship, you can put a solid line. If you have an okay relationship, you can put a dotted line. And if you have no relationship, you can put no line. And what this becomes is sort of like a heat map where you can see who and what are the places where you're spending the majority of your time, or where the relationships are actually working, or where they're not working. So I'll give you a minute or so to actually do some of that work before we move on to the next topic. So Carl and Arlene, are you guys able to follow this exercise, just to make sure I get a little bit of feedback here? Okay, very good. All right, now what we're going to do is, for each of those individuals, entities, or groups, you're going to write, and this is something that you can do after we get out of this video conference. You're going to write on one side of the line, and you can determine which side you want it to be, what it is that you receive in a couple of words from that particular relationship. That is what you receive, and it's pretty easy for you to come up with. The hardest point, and before you start working on that, if you could listen here, it's a little different. For what's coming to that individual, you have to get outside of yourself and look from their perspective at you, and then say, what is it that they value out of what I'm providing? And this is a very important distinction that came through experience that I've had, and this was V7. I think I stopped actually documenting this about 4 or 5 years ago. I do it in my head now because I've done it so many times. First learned this from George Peabody, who was a fellow at the Center for Creative Leadership, who came to speak to all RLF graduates in 2001. And that was as far as he went. He basically said, what is it that you receive and what is it that you provide? But the provision, from my perspective, is not as powerful as understanding what the other individual values in what you're providing. Because you can provide a lot of things, but if they don't value it, it's of no use to you or to them, and it's not going to grow any influence. So once you've had the hard work of looking outside into them, then you can establish what the quality of the relationships are. You can prioritize or reprioritize your life, because that document or that model becomes your as is, and then you look at, how do I change time that I'm spending? How can I enrich or divest in high or low value relationships, depending on the balance necessary for the time or the integration that you need today, right? And those things change as you go through different cycles in life. My wife and I have 3 small children, so I'm not spending as much time networking at sim events as I used to. I simply don't have the time. It would be great for me to be able to do it, but I have Cub Scouts on Monday nights at the same time as our sim meetings. So I choose to spend time with my children, helping them to grow during this very fragile part of their learning experience. And what I trust is that the years of service that I've provided at sim, some of those things come through, and people don't, even though they might miss my company, they understand why I'm not there. So anyway, that's just an example. So what you'll understand as you go through this is where you should take the time to spend. The next slide is really saying, you as an individual have your power base, and then other individuals have their own power base as well. And then as you as an individual understand better how you can utilize your gifts to provide value to your sphere of influence, likewise you can provide value to the sphere of influence that others have, and thereby grow your influence. So that's a simple exercise in Power Base that I wanted to share with you guys. Any comments or questions about that before we move on? All right. So that's pretty much what I had to provide to you guys today. I'm going to go back to the we have what's next. For those of you who are interested in continuing on with the discussion about joining RLF, today is the last day to get in on the early bird discount, which is worth $600, which is substantial. If you're a sim member, you get an additional $500 off, so the $8,800 becomes $7,700. If you're interested in talking further about that, you can call me at 214-621-6285. If you'd like to sign up, you can go to simnet.org, then click on programs, then click on RLF, and then click on sign up. And you can, if you do that today, you'll get early bird discount. If you want to go but you haven't completed your purchasing cycle or whatever, you can go ahead and contact me at mike@rochelleassociates.com. I'll get you into contact with Joanne. Joanne can give you a code. You can sign up now and be billed later. And then if you need more information or would like to have a personal meeting, you can contact Don. Most of you are here because of Don, so you're already in contact with him. But I'd be happy to talk with you guys individually through a meeting with Don. So if there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and end the call. Mark, thanks very much for coming out today. I appreciate you spending the time and sharing. Don, appreciate you bringing Arlene. Yep. And I appreciate you, Don, bringing Arlene, Carl, and others. And we will talk with you soon. Love and peace.